Hello, everyone. We're going to start talking about sectionalism today. Now, a lot of what we're talking about today are things that you already know about sectionalism, things that we've already talked about with the differences between the North and the South. What we're going to start looking at with sectionalism is what's going to happen here that's going to lead to the Civil War. Why is this such a big deal? Why is it that there is a different economy in the North and the South, and what's going to cause so much tension and turmoil that we turn on each other and begin fighting over these ideas of states' rights and slavery. Okay, so the North. What's significant about the North? Well, it's about their economy. Their economy is based on manufacturing. It's based on expanding trade between the North and the South and even the West now. Um, a couple things to take note of, and I want you to write this down. In the North, the railroad system, the factories, urbanization, those are the biggest things that are going to lead to a difference between the North and the South. So go ahead and write this down. In the North, there's more factories, more railroads, and more cities or urban areas. Okay, if you want to pause the video and write that down. Okay, because there's a lot of factories in the North. There's more people living in cities going to work in these factories. The factories are successful because of the South. The South is providing them with things like cotton, things that they need to keep these factories moving. Um, Now, when it comes to the issue of slavery, there are Northerners that believe that slavery is wrong. They feel that it's a morally wrong thing to do. But they also realize that that is something that's being used. And if they don't have slavery in the South, then their supply for cotton is going to go down. It's going to make things more expensive if they don't have slavery. So this is an issue that we're going to run into. Okay. Now, if you see here in this picture down here, it says anti-slavery meetings. There is a push to end slavery in the South from a lot of these Northerners, and this is part of the abolition movement that we talked about in our last unit with the Reform movement. Okay. Now let's talk about the South. Okay. The South, it says, because of the South's geography and climate, it was mainly an agricultural society with small farms and large plantations. We've talked about this so many times before. One of the biggest things that made Jamestown successful was the ability to produce tobacco. Now the big cash crop is cotton. Okay. Cotton is huge. Cotton is taking off now. The thing that really makes cotton valuable and useful is the cotton gin. We talked about how Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin and how this was making cotton more useful and affordable. Before, to produce cotton, it took a long time to clean that cotton and make it usable. Now with the cotton gin, they can use it very, very quickly, and they can produce it very, very quickly, which means the North is going to use it more. Okay. It says here that cities in the South were small as a result of most people living on small farms. There weren't very many urban areas in the South. It was mainly agricultural areas. If you lived on a farm that you owned, it was probably a small farm. If you lived on a plantation, then if you're the plantation owner, you're probably pretty wealthy, and you probably have slaves and a lot of them. Not everyone in the South had slaves, but if you lived on a plantation, there's definitely going to be a lot of slaves. Uh, so this is an issue that they're aware of. It's something that's the norm for them, but it's how they get by. It's what their economy is based on. So what I would write down for the South is there are many farms and plantations growing cotton. Okay, I would write that down. And I'd also write down that because of this agricultural system, they had a higher need for slaves. Okay, so write that down. They needed slaves in the South to be uh, productive. Okay. Also write this down. There weren't many cities in the South. Not very many urban areas. Okay. If you need to pause the video and write that down, write that down. Farms, plantations, increased number of slaves, cotton, and then small or no urban areas. Okay. So these are big differences that we see between the North and the South. We've seen this before, but this is nothing new to you. This is just a recap of what we've learned before. Okay. Now, states' rights. This is an issue that we've talked about a few times before. The 10th Amendment in the Constitution, it allows states to make laws that the federal government has not made. Okay. So there are certain issues like slavery that the federal government does not control. Okay. Now, slavery at this time was up to individual states. If your state needed slaves, or if they decided that it was okay to have slaves, they would make laws pertaining to that. Okay. So it says the 10th Amendment allows the states to have certain powers that were not given to the federal government in the Constitution. Many Southerners believe that each state and not the federal government should make laws concerning slavery and tariffs. Now, here's our guy down here. Y'all remember this guy? This is John C. Calhoun. Okay. He advocated for the theory of nullification. Okay. The idea that a state can nullify a federal law. Okay. Now, we've seen this happen in the past before. What happens when we try to nullify a law? Are there good things that come out of this? No. The answer is no. States cannot nullify federal laws. It never works out. But John C. Calhoun, he believes that they have the right to do this. Okay? He believes they do not have to obey federal laws, and they could even secede. It's a big word there. Secede from the United States if they wanted to. So if the federal government is making a law and the state doesn't like it, we can just leave. That's not okay. Okay? But that's what John C. Calhoun advocates for. Okay? So the things that I'd write down for this page. First off, the 10th Amendment, okay, y'all remember the 10th Amendment, allows states to make laws that the federal government did not make in the Constitution. Okay, so I'd write that down. States can make laws that aren't covered in the Constitution. All right. The next thing I would write down, okay, nullification. Nullification. We've seen this before. Write down nullification. The ability to nullify a law. It's where a state says they don't have to follow a law that the federal government has given because they feel that it's unconstitutional. That's the other thing I would write down with this is nullification, the right of a state to nullify a law that they feel is unconstitutional. They don't have to follow it. And if the federal government tries to force them to follow this law, they could even secede from the United States. Now, this word secede, I want you to write this down. Secede means to break away or to leave. Okay, we've seen that before. We've heard South Carolina threaten this before, but this hasn't happened yet. But we're on our way. Okay, spoiler alert: some states are going to secede. Okay. Now, here's our man, John C. Calhoun again. John C. Calhoun. Okay. He said, the union next to our liberties is most dear. May we all remember that it can only be preserved by respecting the rights of the states. Okay. Remember, the states have power here. And distributing equally the benefits and burdens of the union. Basically saying we all have a part to play here. The state has a role and the federal government has a role. And the federal government, he feels like they're taking too much power away from the states. Okay. And his justification for this comes straight from the Constitution, right down here. It says the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Okay. This is the whole idea of having the stair step. Okay, we've got our federal government, we've got our state government, we have our local government. If the federal government doesn't make a law about something, then it's up to the states. If the states don't address it, then it's up to the local government. If the local government doesn't address it, then it's up to the people. That's the Ninth Amendment. Okay, so there's nothing really you need to write here other than John C. Calhoun is using the 10th Amendment as his justification to nullify laws. Okay, laws that he feels are unconstitutional and that his state of South Carolina does not have to follow. Okay. If you have any questions from this video, please ask me questions in our online session, or you can send me an email. Either way, ask me questions. This is our first lesson. I know that you may have some questions and comments. Please share with me. This is new for us, and I want to make sure that we're understanding this content. Not having the ability to ask questions in a live format with this is different, but we're going to get used to it. Okay. So please send me questions if you have any. The worksheet, make sure you do the worksheet next. It's on Google Classroom. Okay. Thanks for watching. I hope y'all have a good day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.